In this video, I'm going to show you how to make big lumps of cash with property that you don't even own. And the strategy of this is called assisted sales. So if you're not familiar with this, I'm going to break it down in this video. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you've done assisted sales or if it's a strategy that you're considering to do. Let me know in the comments. First, we have to go through what is an assisted sale. Well, assisted sale is a strategy that you can use within property without even owning the property. So the owner retains the ownership of the property, but what we do is we come in and assist them in the sale. So not in the way that an agent then sells the property, so all they're doing then is coming in and selling the property for them and making a commission. No, what we do is come in and increase the value of the property. So typically what you would do with a buy, refurbish and then sell strategy, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to have the ownership. We're not going to buy it. So we're going to take the buy out, and then we're just going to renovate and sell and make that profit. So if you look at it this way, what we're doing is adding value without ownership. What are the benefits of doing this over the normal strategy? Why would you choose to do this over the normal strategy? And obviously you can understand that it's much higher returns than on your money, but why would you do it? So one of the reasons why you might choose this strategy is you don't have enough money for the full purchase price and the refurb. So you might have the refurb money, and then you could look at it as again a way to get in with this strategy, and then you can start flipping these, making assisted sales a good strategy to start making lumps of cash so you can actually go out and do it yourself and have some ownership over the property. But thinking about it, do you really need to own the property to start making these lumps of cash and you don't have as much to put in? Is it a better strategy overall? Let me know in the comments what you think. Overall, in a market that we're seeing at the moment, then there's more opportunities in a rising market. If you look at it, there's opportunities for people to go and especially these run-down properties, to go and add value and then get the increase on top. But a lot of these house prices are already, I would say, overly inflated at the moment. So they're high priced. But you can still add value, and the way that properties are selling at the moment, then it could be a very good strategy to start using because you go in with the upward tide of the market, and this can help you then with flipping. So flipping in a rising market is a good time to do it, but just make sure you're not going at the dip. But who knows when the dip is, right? So, but make sure you are looking out for the signs. But a rising market is probably the best time to flip because you are riding the market then to go up. What you can do also is agree to refurb the property, and then once it's at the end, you can then purchase the property as well. So how do you do that? So you're getting that refurb, and the reason why you might decide to do this is it's not in a condition where it can be mortgaged. So I could go into a property which is run down, and I can say I'll do the renovation on it to get it to a mortgageable state. And if I'm doing that, then I can then get a mortgage at the other end. Whereas otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do that because it's obviously in such a rundown state. So I make the profit then of the sale in between. So I make my split on the increase of the sale, and I can then go and rent out the property then as a buy-to-let if I wanted to. This can be typically done with an option then to buy the property at the end. Now that we know the benefits of assisted sale, how do we actually go out and do one? Well, they typically work for the rundown properties, or typically what you find is probate properties where the people haven't got the money then to do them up. They've been landed with this property obviously from somebody in their family or someone else in their friends or family who passed away, and then it's landed to them. They don't have the resources then to go invest in the property to get it up to the standard, or might not really have the time and energy to do it. Maybe they're elderly themselves. They don't want to go through the stress. So how can we then go in and then help them, and then they can make even more money from the sale of the property as well. So often selling quicker then once it goes back onto the market. And they have to wait through the probate period anyway. So is an option then to have someone come in, do the refurb, and then help assist them with that sale. Ultimately, what you're doing is creating a win-win situation for both parties, and that's the kind of property deals that I love. What I'm going to do now is break down the deal, and I'm going to show you the traditional one first. I know that this is a complicated strategy, and a lot of people could get left behind on this, and I had to go through it quite a few times myself before I really understood it. So I thought, well, let's recap it in this part of the video. So I'm going to show you what a traditional flip would look like, and the numbers then associated with it if we were to do it the traditional way. So the traditional flip, what we would have done was 100 grand purchase price, and that would be then obviously the money you invest to purchase the property because you are then taking ownership of the property. Then you've got the 20 grand refurb as well. So that would estimate before you went into the project, knowing how much that would have been. Then your legals and stamp would be around 5 grand. So let's say 4,000 for the land transaction tax, because it'd be 4% in Wales. And then the £1,000 for the legals then. We're just gonna use rounded numbers. But if we were to do that, then you'd make £35,000 profit on the money you've invested. So a decent flip all in all, right? So let's look at this from the assisted sale angle to see the difference. So when we're looking at it, you don't have to put the purchase price in. So that's all gonna be the owner that's gonna put the price in. So they own the property, therefore you don't have to purchase it in this regard. Then you've got 20 grand refurb that you had originally. That's gonna stay exactly the same. Now, what you're going to do is offer to pay their legals as well. So it's an attractive offer then, because they're not having to pay that. So you're going to say that it's, for argument's sake, 1 grand for legals. And we're looking at the 160 end value again. So when we're looking at the profit then, what you would do is split that between you. So what we're doing is we'd say that overall profit then would be the 40,000. And then what you're going to do is split that between you, taking it down to 20k each. But then, as I said, you're going to have to pay the 1 grand in legals. And the reason I like to put that 1 grand in legals then is because you have control over what happens in terms of the legal process. Paying that and having control is a really benefit, because you want to have control over the deal. So paying the legals then, and it also gives them an incentive to go with you. So if they don't have the legal costs there, it's a good reason for them to go with you and do this assisted sale. So they're not having to put the refurb in, they're not having to put the legals in, and you cover all of those costs. So you might make a bit less, coming away with 19,000. But as you can see, this 19,000 is near double the amount of money that you've invested. So you've invested 21,000, you're walking away with 19k. That's a pretty healthy return on investment compared to obviously what we had in the traditional sense, where you were putting in £125,000 worth of money in. And that's a massive difference then in terms of how much money you're making on the money employed. The magic here then is that we don't have to pay stamp duty or land transaction tax in Wales, because we're only assisting with the sale, we're not purchasing the property. Therefore the ownership is not transferred. What we're doing then, we do have to separate then obviously the profit. So the profit then is split between us. So the profit then is more because we don't have to pay the stamp duty. So we're going to get £40,000 profit in total, and then we're going to split that between us and the seller. So we're going to make £20,000 each in profit, which is a massive return on your money employed. You can see the difference between the money you have to invest to do a flip in the traditional sense, where you've got to purchase the property, you've got to do the renovation, and you've got to pay the stamp duty and legals. Now you just have to go in, pay that renovation fee. You might pay a bit of legals then if you want to get the contracts written up and everything like that. And you have to put a charge on it as well, which is another thing that's in the end of the video that can help save you a lot of money. So keep watching. Now what we want to do is compare the return on investment between both of the strategies. And you can see the traditional flip then is giving you a 28% return on investment, whereas the assisted sale is giving you just over 90% if you look at the calculations dead on. So 90%, that's a massive difference in the return on the investment and return on the cash that you've put in. Massive difference. And you can see that this strategy is making you a lot better results in terms of the money that you're investing. And this is why it's such a powerful strategy. So if you can imagine, if you were making 19 grand profit on all of these deals, just imagine if you had 5 of those on the go at the time. You're nearly making 100 grand in profit just from those deals. And that's massive when you think about it. It could be the perfect strategy then for you to implement to make your money stretch even further. But obviously it's a complicated strategy. And not only that, you need to make sure that you get the seller to agree with you on this, and if you can get the negotiation with them, then it's going to become a very lucrative strategy. Another benefit then to the assisted sale is that you're only paying for the refurbishment costs. And when you're paying the refurbishment costs, it doesn't matter how much the purchase of the property is. It could be 100 grand, it could be 200 grand. You're focusing on the refurb cost itself. That's why this strategy is so great, especially in areas, in expensive areas at that. So if you're in an expensive area, the refurb could cost exactly the same as it would on a lower end house, but you're making a lot more profit then because there could be potentially even higher end values. So this strategy can work really well for that reason. Once you become versed in the different strategies within property that you can use, and quite creative strategies, then you can use multiple of these strategies together, such as exchange with delayed completion, lease options, vendor finance as well. So using some of these kind of creative strategies can help you then grow your portfolio without having to put as much money in. You might be thinking this strategy is too good to be true. Well, there are some drawbacks that you need to think about. So one thing is, these opportunities do not come around all the time, and that's one of the things that obviously is the drawback. You can go out and find them, but you have got to negotiate with the seller, and it can be a tedious process, and really getting them to see the light at the end of the tunnel, like I said before, it's quite a hard process in itself to make them see the light. But if you can, and you can then obviously position it as a win-win, then it can be a very lucrative strategy for both parties involved, which is what I love. So you might be thinking, what if the seller backs out? And I know this is what I'd be thinking. Well, that's why you need contracts in place, and you need airtight contracts, which I'm going to share in a bit within the rest of this video. But these are so important, so if you watch this far, you need to watch the end, because that is the most important thing in security in any of these deals. The other thing is to try and do these deals with properties that are in vacant possession. What that means is that there's no one living in the property. There's nothing worse than doing a refurb around someone living in the property. Can you imagine a full gut renovation when somebody's living in the house? Very, very hard, and it's not something you really want to be doing. There's too much headache involved. Just don't do it. What you want to do is make sure that you could even consider then obviously paying then for them to go somewhere else. Might be a bit costly, or getting them to live with family for the time being if it's not a probate. This is why probates are kind of prime suspects then for making sure that we go for these, because obviously nobody's living in the property, so that's the main thing, is go for ones that are empty if you can. You may be thinking, what if you can't sell the property? Well, there are a couple of options then. You can put it onto a mortgage. So the idea is that maybe you're putting on the mortgage because it was an unmortgageable state beforehand, and then you've done the refurb to get into a mortgageable state, which is some of the strategies that we have then considered with properties that weren't in mortgageable state, and that might be an option for you. Or the other option is to go and purchase the property yourself. So you could go and purchase the property yourself. You have what we call an option in place, we're going to talk a bit more about, but basically you have the opportunity to purchase the property and then remortgage the property afterwards, so then being able to retain the property and turn it into a buy-to-let and getting the majority of the money out, but you're still making that profit there as well. So that might be the option for you, but obviously looking and talking to the person who's selling the property with, making sure that they get their money then and making still a bit of profit for them in there, but you might be able to negotiate a lower price. But in the option then, you want to have the option then to possibly purchase it at the lower price, because you don't want to necessarily purchase at the full price then if you are going to buy and do it that way. So just have a think about that. It's all about the security, which I'm going to talk to you about next. The most important thing then with these kind of strategies is the security. How do you make sure that you're secure within this deal? Well, the first thing you need to do is get a CH1, which is a charge on the property, similar to what a mortgage would get then. If you had a charge on the property from a mortgage, if you couldn't pay the mortgage, they would then go and sell the property because they have that charge on the property. So that's the typical security that a mortgage company has over a property. Then you need to go out and get a UN1 or an RX1. So UN1 is a unilateral notice and gives you the security that they can't go and sell that property without your knowledge, and that restricts it. And the same as an RX1 then. RX1 is a restriction which stops them from selling the property, because then on the title deeds then it's got your restriction on there, and you can even see that on land registry as well. But within this, please do make sure to consult with your solicitor before going through with it. Some people prefer RX1, some people prefer a UN1, but to me, I think they're pretty much very similar, and they give you quite a good level of security in that regard. So, but ask your solicitor, see what they say. Obviously, I'm not a fully qualified solicitor, but from my experience and experience with talking to the solicitors, that's what I've been told. So one of the things that I like to put in then is an option, so a lease option or purchase option as it might be known. So the idea is you have the option then to purchase the property at the end if you want to. So you just have first refusal on whether to purchase the property or not. But it gives you then a bit of control then, because that's what you're doing, is then you have control over having first dibs on the property, whatever happens. So they can't just go and sell that property without you being in the mix. So you need to be the first person informed on an option contract. Do you think this could be the strategy for you? If so, let us know in the comments. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I've got more videos that you can check out here and here. Those are going to help you then grow a successful property portfolio. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next video.